we'll call our meeting to order at our new time at 5 o'clock. At this time, without a minister present, unless Tim's a minister, we will have a moment of silence, please. All right, if you would please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. I know you got double duty tonight, so we'll go.
Nice and slow.
Yes, roll call, please.
Mr. Crouch.
Here.
Mrs. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Coble. Mr. McCrillis.
Here.
Mr. Corbin.
Here. Okay, at this time, we all received our previous meeting minutes electronically. Would someone like to make a motion to accept these as presented?
I'll make a motion we accept.
I will second it.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Coble. Mr. McCrillis.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
Mr. Crouch.
Yes. We also are going to do our approval of operational reports right now. The first ones are everybody received electronically: the building inspector, finance, fire, police, public works, water, wastewater, treasurer, monthly reports for May 2023. Would somebody like to make a motion to accept these as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes or the reports as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Any questions before we call the roll?
I have a question that isn't really specifically about one of the reports, but several of them mention that, and that's the new dog park. What is the status of that deal at this point?
Yes, so the redevelopment authority who had applied for the grant on behalf of the city, they are at the process now. They've ordered fencing.
Okay.
They're waiting for the fencing to come in. Our public works folks have done some work down there with water lines and things, setting up the water. I believe they've started that or completed. Just waiting for the fencing to
Okay,
come in.
and then that's the last thing
That's
that
the
needs
last
done?
Yes.
And it'll be open then?
Yes.
Awesome, okay, thanks.
All right. Call the roll, please. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. McCrillis.
Yes.
Mr. Crouch.
Yes. At this time, we'll have our manager's report.
Yes, good evening, council. Just a few items this week. First being, wanted to, rehash the CDBG and minor projects. As council recalls at the last meeting, we spoke about some of the baseball field, the dugouts that were being put in down there. We had a conversation about potentially moving those projects to the pickleball playground set area because of the cost of the dugouts. We've all had an opportunity to sit down with Sam from the county planning office. County planning officer handles our CDBG funding. She explained timelines, things like that with the funding that we have. Where we're kind of at on the process with the projects down there where it's ready to go out to bid. We did get back some updated costs of the dugouts, which were high with the cost for two of the fields down there. So I just wanted to open that conversation back up because I know we kind of left it as we were going to kind of reshift projects from the dugouts into two other projects down there. And since then, having that conversation with Sam, get some fresh thoughts on those projects.
Okay. All right.
I was there at the meeting with Sam, and I appreciated what she offered and her perspective on on moving forward with that project. And I understand the timelines and that some of that money is from previous CDBG, and it does need to be used. In talking to her about some of the concerns, she recognized that and recognized that the county should have kind of been more involved, and that frankly we want to be more involved in those processes. And I expressed this to her, and I think it's important. My concern is that the costs are coming in high from the engineer, and they haven't even been bid out yet. So even even if the bid comes in at or slightly under what we're asking, we all have experienced, you know, Founders Park, and the idea that that isn't necessarily going to be every cost once it gets started. And so it just is such an excessively large cost for such a, and I understand the sidewalk is part of that, and I know that we did ask for some additional breakdown of the cost of exactly why it's costing so much to put up a block. It's not even a building, frankly. You know, and I still have those concerns. Like, I understand where the county is coming from, and I don't know that it would have been any different no matter where our CDBG is being handled from. I just, it's just a shame that that's what seems to happen with a lot of, and for all the communities with these projects, because of the restrictions that are placed on them. And a lot of that is important, I get that. But, you know, we're in a community where we are the stewards of this money, and we look at how much that this seemingly small project really is going to cost down there. And it's still a concern, although it's not really an option to move that around at this point. And so I hope, I guess what I want to say about that is I hope the county keeps up their end of what they said in keeping us in the loop much more efficiently, and them keeping on the engineer. Because my question is, why did it take 4 months to get this report? And she didn't really have an answer for that.
Sure.
Other than they were short-staffed as well. And that seems to be it. It took them so long to engineer this, that now we're stuck with, you know, and we had all these things on our list of what we wanted to do, and this is the only piece of engineering that came back, and it took them 4 months to do it. That's problematic to me as well. You know, it's a limited pot of money, and we wanted to get the biggest bang for this buck. And in this case, it's, in my opinion, not it. But we're kind of stuck where we are. And with the time constrained, if we don't get a series of bidders, you know, or they all bid too high, then we're even more in a scramble to get it done from there. And that's, I mean, it's not fair to the contractors, it's not fair to the city, it's not, and that's nobody's fault, really. It's just kind of where we are in the process. But I guess going forward, we need to hold them to their bargain of, we upped their administrative cost so that this was being done, that
More efficient.
it needs to be more efficient, and we need to be in the loop from the beginning. And somebody needs to be on an engineer that's taken 4 months to tell us where a cement pad's going. You know, I guess. So that's
No,
my opinion of that. I don't know what anybody else has to say.
I was at the same meeting as our, and although it's great to hear that they're going to be more involved going forward, they're going to be at more of our meetings and our monthly roundtables and stuff. You know, it still wasn't the answer we were looking for, because as council, last time we tried to look at it from a common sense standpoint, which doesn't always fit the CDBG profile and the way government grants work. But I'm with Sarah that, you know, in a community our size, it's hard. On the one hand, it's hard to justify what we're spending. On the other hand, we need to make sure, like she explained to us, that we explain to the public that once you apply for these grants, some of this stuff is out of your hands. Because just like if we were down there building them as a community, we would probably build much more simpler dugouts and have a lot of the community involved and be able to do it pretty inexpensive. But because it's a government grant thing, they have to be ADA compliant, which means for each dugout, we have to put in 2 paved parking areas and a cement sidewalk.
Right.
So cement sidewalk back to, and they have to be ADA accessible. Even though, as we discussed, baseball really isn't a sport that there's a lot of that involvement. But we're glad we're going forward, and we're kind of hoping that maybe that when it comes down to it, that they'll come in way under budget. Maybe we'll have some money to use for something else. That's my 2 cents. How about you, Jay? Anything?
I would just agree 100% with what Sarah and everything that Sarah said. It's just, you know, I guess I've kind of come into this a little bit late, but it's still the same point. It's just an excessive amount of money for what we're getting. And it's it's hard to fathom, I guess. I don't know, there's not much else you can really say. I guess the only question I would have is, so when the bids go out, what's the timeline as far as when would they hope to have this done?
This year?
Yeah, so bids would go out in July, we have them back towards the end of July, and then notice of award, and proceed with the dugouts by the end of the year.
So, I mean, I guess I'm asking, is it kind of guaranteed that they will be done? Because obviously, you know, I actually talked to Scott Salvo last week. He said, well, I don't want to be in the middle of a construction project, you know, when baseball season opens up next year. And
No,
No, the funding has to be used up by next year as well. The goal is to start, we're about a month or a month and a half behind.
So
It
it's
should have been bidded out, we should have already been starting this in June. So we are about a month and a half behind.
But if all goes well, it should be in by fall.
Yes.
So what happens if it comes in overbid?
So two options, you can decline, not accept the bid, or we'll have to find a way to fund the balance, whether it's through next year's CDBG funding, or we're gonna allocate wherever that overage is. Those will be some options.
That'll be what council vote.
So, now, did you actually get from Sam like a bigger breakdown of the materials from the dugouts?
I did not.
That's what we had asked her to
Right.
do, and I know she sent then a message
Yep.
about where they came up with those figures, which is fine.
Yeah,
But I think the question really was, what materials are so costly? And I know part of that is labor,
sure.
and that
Yeah.
what CDBG has to pay for labor is.
I haven't got the response back as far as what the breakdown other than the total amount.
Right, because I'm just wondering what, because you could see in the original what the cost of concrete is and all of that, and but then the dugouts was just like one big price, and it didn't really say
What materials?
what materials they're using that are gonna be
Titanium.
so costly.
Yeah,
Unless the majority of that is where all the labor was lumped for the whole project,
yeah,
which would make sense, but we don't really know that
exactly.
they're coming in that high for,
Mhm.
so maybe if we could
Yep,
see that, that would be.
I'll follow up and
Okay.
we'll get that out to council as soon as I get the breakdown.
By the way, while we're talking about CDBG, small note, but did we ever get an answer about the overage at the Founder's Park?
No, I think it was going back to
Okay.
the contractor to
Okay.
question the overage.
Okay, thank you.
And then, I'm sorry, can you just,
Yeah.
when were the bids going out then?
So bids were gonna be going out, I saw an email this morning, they were trying to confirm July 28th would be the deadline.
Okay,
So by the end of July would be the hope that we would accept bids till then, and then the notice of award go out after council would accept the bid. So
okay.
you're talking, boy, mid-August, probably towards the end of August
And they're
construction.
hoping that it'll be done before winter.
Yes,
That's
it's
okay.
pushing time, yes.
So just referring back, what was the cost? So everybody knows
Sure.
what the cost was.
So for the boys' baseball field and the girls' softball field, that's 4 dugouts. It was right around, I think, bidding roughly from our engineer was right around $350,000.
For the dugouts,
For
the
dugouts,
sidewalks, paving,
yes.
signage, painting.
Yes, and that's
That's
cutting erosion socks, something we're gonna try to do in-house, lawn seeding, been working with the school district. We're trying to cut some of these costs out of there to lower that amount, because we only have a set amount of money.
So there's no way that we can get out of doing what we want to do. We have to go by what's on the
The
agenda.
engineers didn't engineer the other pieces we wanted to do down there, so to do that, then that would be however long it takes them to engineer that.
Be pushing time.
And then the money deadlines start coming up, because some of this money is from 2020, is that right?
Right.
That's correct.
Some of it's from 2020.
Yeah, so some of it
We're
expires.
getting close on
This
time.
year.
Mhm.
So if we were to go to shift it to pickleball and playground set, we'd have to obviously put a package together for that. They would have to get some costs. We have rough costs, but we don't have,
We definitely,
all that on paper.
Do we have some idea of what we can get possibly get next year?
Yeah, I think it was right around about the same cost, $309,000, I believe, and then
And we
about
have
the same
to,
amount.
Why don't we
right,
forgo
they
this
want
and
those
wait
projects
till next
by the
year?
end of July as
Yeah,
well,
somebody somewhere
correct?
else.
So we have to start talking about that.
because that costs us a little. Yeah, Bill asked,
Pardon?
why don't we just forego this whole project And that's what we asked. The problem is it cost us a huge amount of money
Yeah, we've
just in
And
engineering.
not only that, the money that expires, expires. So if we don't use it, it's done.
Use it.
Like,
Yeah.
we don't have time to do another project from the 2020 money is the problem.
That's correct.
So, and if we take the other money out of it that we still have time to use, then we get a half a project,
That's correct.
or a quarter of a project, or whatever. I mean, it's a problem all the way around. I mean, there's no doubt that this is an issue.
Well, I hope that the city and everybody in town enjoys their dugouts.
Well, I also think we definitely, from your vantage point, need to have some serious reminders that there needs to be better communication going forward, because that was what this was. You know, there are a lot of things happen post this pandemic of where things went over, but this is, for the citizens of the town, this is kind of unacceptable.
It's over and done with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's-
But as a reminder, our next round of CDBG, the county would like project ideas by the end of July.
Yeah.
So we have to start looking at the next round and what we can do, and being more involved in that. And I think that falls to us as well. I mean,
Sure. That's all of us.
we pay that administrative fee, and then we kind of assume that things are happening.
Right.
Put the money
Then
in-
that's on us too to say, hey, we want an update,
Yeah.
and,
put the money in
you
the
know,
works.
we didn't
Okay.
do that, so.
Okay, next, council, good news, PNC grant award. We have, council recalls we applied through the PNC Charitable Trust for money for the outside restoration of City Hall. We got notice last week, I believe I shared that email with council. We were awarded $20,000 to go to the exterior of City Hall. We had actually asked for 30, the minimum would have been 15, and we got 20. So again, that'll go towards the cost of the outside of City Hall. We did have we were receiving bids up until last week for the outside of City Hall from contractors. We had one bid come in. We're still working on some logistics on the bid that came in. We've got to make sure we have everything we need before it goes in front of council. I will share with council, it was much lower than what we allocated for the outside. So this, obviously, the PNC grant award will help greatly towards that outside City Hall. Next, I have a special event application that's been approved. It's from the Titusville Youth Soccer THS Boys Soccer Program for a reverse raffle at the airport, requesting use of the city hangar. This will be on July 1st, starting at 6 p.m. So then, as I said, it's for the youth program to raise funds. Youth Soccer has supplied us the correct insurance. I've notified the airplane hangar owners, all the planes that are in there that could be, let's say, affected, but it'll be roped off, so they're aware of what's going on. Obviously, if it's a nice day and they want to fly the plane, they're going to know there's an event going on, and we're not.
And they can get it out early.
Yeah, making sure everybody's.
Is this youth soccer, or is this the high school soccer team?
This is youth soccer / THS boys soccer.
So it's both, okay.
Yes. Okay. So again, that's July 1st, 6 p.m. for that event, and that's been approved.
And
Next,
just a note to the community that several airport advisory board members will be there just to
yes,
kind of oversee the.
yes, I did share that with the advisory board members, letting them know, so they were included, and as the mayor said, some are volunteering to help park cars and be present. So. Next, just briefly, I wanted to follow up with the parking sticks agreement status. I did speak with our solicitor. We had to make some revisions to that to make sure the city was covered under that agreement. That has since been sent back to the company, MPS. They have since signed off and agreed to it. So we're hoping the first week of July, second week of July, they're going to work with Gretchen up at the police station and set the time where they're going to come into town and set the locations of these sticks. So just wanted to provide an update that we're moving forward on that as well.
And that's gonna be 10 to start with,
Time
right?
to start with.
Okay.
Next, council, I'm asking to request, as I had passed out to you before the meeting here, cafe tables, picnic tables for Founders Park. I almost said the Diamond Street Park. Founders Park. This would be 3 tables and 1 handicap table.
So 4 total.
Had a chance to meet with a group of us to kind of see what, Tim was included, what made sense over at that park, something easy to clean under, obviously would be bolted down, and obviously including a handicap accessible table as well. The ones I sent you actually have the option to put an umbrella if you want an umbrella in there. If you don't have to, of course. We do have a business owner who has come forward and asked to donate a large amount of money towards this cost of the tables, which we're very grateful for. We also have a local business that's interested in selling us at a very minimal cost umbrellas that would equip these tables, again, it's 4 tables for the park as well. As council recalls and the public knows, we've had to cut a lot of things out of this park. It's a rising cost of things. That's one thing that had to be cut out was the cafe tables. So again, I would like to move forward with ordering. The cost to the city portion would be right around $1,600, with the rest paid for by donation. So I'm just asking if council would approve spending the $1,600. I would probably look out of the ARPA funds.
Okay.
As we have some additional funds out of there to pay for these tables. I'd like to get them ordered. I haven't talked to the company yet. I'm not sure if there's what the time frame is, but again, I'd love to have them there before summer's over so people can
Yeah.
join them.
What about benches? Had you thought about that yet?
So benches, I need to follow up with benches on some of our organizations in town. I know one
Yes.
organization wanted to do one in memory of. I had another business owner from the Merck that actually wanted to get one as well.
Okay.
I just need to follow up with them. So potentially we have
By next
2
meeting?
benches. Yeah.
Okay. And you figure those total would be less than
Yeah.
$3,000 for 4 benches probably?
Yeah, somewhere around that cost.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just asking for approval to move forward with that.
Okay. Just a couple things from the
Sure.
park, from, the mayor and I walked over there
Yeah.
after we were here.
Yep.
So on the side of the building are still like this parking,
Yes.
so those probably can
Yes.
come down, yes?
I actually had a conversation.
Okay,
Tim and
I
I
mean, one was
talked
kind of
about
falling down.
Yep.
We've talked, some of the signs we can reach from the ground, obviously. Some of these
Okay.
other ones, I know there's a McDonald's sign. but they're-
Yeah, I don't know how they're all attached to that building, but that should all
Yes.
come down. And then at the very bottom, there's like some weird concrete. I don't-
Slab.
It's not even a slab, really. It's like a little retainer wall, it looks like, but it's real
Sure.
short. It's like curb height.
Okay.
So there's probably something we can do with that to beautify it, I would think. It just kind of has dirt and it's right under that. It's right against that building there, but it's just strange and
Yeah.
odd shape there that we should be able to do something that makes it look nicer
Yeah. We can,
for
Tim
whatever.
and I will go over and take a look at it.
Okay.
And see what kind of options we have.
Okay, I'm not sure what it was for or why it's there and why it didn't get removed before, but there must have been a reason.
Okay, yeah.
So, but it could.
Okay.
And I personally think that when we put these in, we space them out right, et cetera. I personally think that there possibly could be room for one more down the road.
Mhm.
They-
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it all depends on the size of these, because when they first did, they might have been bigger, so. So you need us to kind of.
Yeah, just give the blessing to move forward and purchase the tables. Again, I would like this business owner that donated the money, I'm going to see if they're interested in coming to the next meeting to recognize them for making that great donation.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, sounds, somebody offering up a lot of money. I guess, yeah.
Probably almost 3/4 of it.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Bill?
Yep. Make a motion that we go ahead and order the tables.
Okay.
I'll
I guess.
second.
Okay.
Second
Yeah,
it.
we'll vote on. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. McCrillis.
Yes.
Mr. Crouch.
Yes.
Thank you. And lastly, just a reminder of the community calendar. For folks, all the wonderful events that are going on tonight, obviously it's concerts in the park, but a lot of things going on this summer here in the city, so tap into TitusvillePA.com. Just reference everyone to that site. And with that, council, that concludes my report for the week.
Okay. Anybody like them to start over, or would somebody like to make a motion to accept the manager's report?
I'll make a motion that we accept the manager's report.
I will second it.
All caught up? You ready to call the roll?
I'm ready. Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. McCrillis.
Yes.
Mr. Crouch.
Yes. Do we have any minutes for boards or authorities?
On anything.
Okay. Council committee updates. I know we met with the committee that's trying to update our dog ordinances.
Yes.
And just to let the citizens of the community know, one of the dogs involved in this last ordeal has been put down, and the other one is either down or scheduled to be put down. So they both were deemed dangerous dogs, and they're on the question. And we decided kind of today as a committee that instead of spending, well, first of all, I believe that what this council has done and set a precedent on is we like to listen to people that are on the front lines, people that actually have boots on the ground, for lack of a better term, to give us the real feedback on how things would go. And one of the things that the committee's talked about is maybe fixing up our old dog pound, for lack of a better term, down at Public Works. And so after listening to our Public Safety Commissioner and Tim, who was a former detective and policeman up there, and all the things they had to go through, and the fact that if we let our policemen get involved in that part of it, they have to have, what's the term for the pole you use? Catch pole, and then they have to get the dog in the back seat of a cruiser, hope it doesn't tear it up. Sometimes the pole's hanging out the window, they have to get it down there. Then once it's there, somebody has to come every day, feed the dog. In the middle of winter when it's 10 degrees outside, spraying all the stuff down. So after listening to all that, we decided that we're going to set up a meeting with the county dog warden. Because one of the missing pieces of this last thing is, once the dog, that happens, the dog gets quarantined, and there's very little follow-up with the community and with the people. So we believe that going forward, that we're going to let our local police department be that piece of the puzzle that follows up to make sure they have a muzzle, to make sure they have the leash and all this stuff, and then give feedback to Neil or to council and the victims of the incident. So a lot of good stuff came out of it. So our next meeting will be set up with our county dog warden here in the next few weeks. That's all. Okay. Anybody else have anything? We'll move on to public participation pertaining to our agenda items. Anybody wishes to speak? We have a whole lot of people from the public here, but old business is second reading of Council Bill number 4 about our open container ordinance, and new business is a presentation by auditors McGill, Power, and Bell and Associates. Okay, if we don't have anybody that wants to give public participation, we'll start with our old business, get that out of the way. Second reading of Council Bill number 4.
Yes, Council, this is an ordinance of the City of Titusville, County of Crawford, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending Section 741.01 of the Codified Ordinances of Titusville, Pennsylvania, pertaining to consumption of alcoholic beverage or possession of open container, to permit the City Council to issue a permit allowing the consumption or possession of alcohol at a specific location within the city upon approval of a permit, providing for a repealer, severability, and an effective date.
I was thinking about this morning when I was on the morning drill with Luke, and you know, when we came into office, all of our city parks were no pets allowed, and we decided to try to do something in a common sense way that would help responsible pet owners be able to do that. And I kind of look at this with that same principle. There might be some people that think that this is just, you know, we're just throwing this open to an everyday occurrence of open container, but what it has to do with, it has to do when there's a special event in town, like the oil festival or like the wine walk they had a few weeks ago, and events like that. I know that Franklin has a thing that they do where they do Friday night sip and shop, where people can buy wine and go to the other shops and shop. And so just to be specific for the audience and anybody that listens to the video, this is for a specific occasion, for a specific amount of time, you know, like a 5 to 9 at night, and it will also be mapped out so everybody will know where it is. It's not all over town, it's just specific locations. Would somebody like to make a motion to accept the second reading?
I'll make a motion to accept the second reading.
I will second that.
Okay. Call the roll, please, now.
Mr. McCrillis?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Crouch?
Yes. And now we'll have a presentation by auditors from McGill, Power, and Bell Associates.
I'm not sure.
Yes, good, perfect.
Okay, you should have, by the way, I'm Joyce Drain, I'm with the Carvel, our Franklin office. You should have in front of you a one-page summary of the audit report. Instead of going through the whole report, we try to narrow it down to a one-page report. Just to tell you how this works, since it's the first time presenting it to you. On the left-hand side, the column that says report page, that tells you where you can go in the general fund, that's your operating fund. At the end of the year, you had total assets of $1,988,000, up about $309,000 from the previous year, while liabilities at the end of the year were $478,000, down about $173,000 from the previous year. That mainly related to the ARPA deferred revenue funds. Deferred inflows of resources, that's delinquent taxes, was comparable to the prior year, giving you a general fund balance at the end of the year of just over $1.2 million. When you compare to the prior year, you're up about $488,000. If you look at the general fund revenues, in total, they were $4,726,000, up about $651,000 from the previous year. Main categories that were up this year were taxes. The majority of that was up because of realty transfer taxes and the sales of commercial properties. And our governmental revenues were also up. The main reason there was the ARPA funds, as well as some other grants during the year. When we compare the revenues to the budgeted amounts, you are actually up about $873,000 from what was budgeted. We look at the general fund expenditures, they were $4,238,000, up about $154,000 from the previous year. That increase related to expenditures associated with the grants. When you compare that to the budget, you were actually over budget by about $28,000, but that was covered via the increase in revenues for the year.
Okay.
Overall, the change in fund balance, when you compare the revenues to the expenses, was an increase this year of about $488,000. Some of the other funds in your financial statements, you have the capital project fund. When you compare fund balance at the end of the year, it was an increase of $715,000. Was quite a bit of activity in that fund this year. There was $777,000 worth of capital expenditures and other related costs that were covered via transfers in from the respective funds. When we look at liquid fuels at the end of the year, there was an ending balance of $7 in the fund. So liquid fuels worked as intended. You received the money during the year and expended it. You have various proprietary funds. What we've listed here for those are the assets, liabilities, and the net position at the end of the year. When you compare the net position between the 22 year and the 21 year, that would represent the excess of revenues over expenses or the deficit related to that. One thing to note was there were some transfers to the capital project fund this year from some of the funds. The water fund transferred $168,000, so the capital project fund could purchase needed repairs and needed equipment. And the sewer fund transferred $432,000, same purpose. There you also purchased a skid steer, a zero-turn radius mower, a sewer camera. So the capital project fund had a lot of activity during the year, even though when you look at it, it doesn't appear to look that. Also included in your financial statements is what they call the government-wide financial statement, which looks at some of your long-term assets and liabilities. Like I said, the assets are maintained at a level, not increased or decreased during the year. But your notes payable are included on the sewer fund. They show a liability at the end of the year of 1.7, down about $162,000 from the previous year, but that's as a result of making your payments according to term. The pension liability is included, as is the OPEB liability, and those are based upon actuarial studies. Also included in the financial statement in section B is what they call management's discussion and analysis. So when you have a chance to read through the financial statement, that's a summary put together by Heather, basically using the same numbers but a narrative associated with it.
Okay.
I know that's a really fast overview, but any questions that anybody might have?
Okay, just to clarify, you said, you went over fund balance, capital projects, you said $715,000. Should it be $715?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Just wanted to-
I like to add zeros.
I heard that number.
Yes, yes, that's why I said it didn't look like much of a difference. $715 was the overall change. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Any other questions? I did include on top of there one of my business cards. Please, anytime tonight or anytime during the year you have questions, please just reach out to us.
Okay,
We are in pretty good shape then as far as,
Yes.
okay, very good. Very good.
Okay. Thank
and
you.
for the scuttle that's out there on the record, I would just like to say, since this will be on film forever, that the city owns the water and the sewer funds, and as things are tracked and transferred back and forth, everything according to our attorneys, to our auditors, to our district attorneys, to our commissioners, to the state, we're doing everything by the book. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Now, do we need to vote on
Yeah,
not accepting it, but voting on the fact that it got done?
correct. Need a motion and a second.
Need a motion to accept,
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to accept.
okay,
I'll second it.
call the roll if you would, Neil.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. McCurless,
Yes.
Mr. Crouch.
Yes. I thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
This time we open it up for public input. Okay. All right, we'll have our closing comments by mayor, council, junior council, which we have none here tonight. So, Bill, we'll start with you tonight.
Okay, I got 4 quick things, if you don't mind. The garbage bond, where do we stand with that?
So an email went out at the end of last week after we acquired, why we hadn't received the performance bond yet after it was approved by Erie Insurance. Our solicitor sent another email to the insurance company asking what the status was and why we hadn't received payment yet. So that's where we were at the end of last week.
Maybe one of these weeks, at a meeting, we can give an overlay of what's gonna happen with that refund.
Sure.
So, bike racks, does that stand anywhere?
Bike racks. We talked about CATA.
Yep.
So the last I talked to CATA, they had applied and were approved for funding to put, I believe, 4 racks in the city in different locations. We were hoping by midsummer. I know that CATA was hoping that they'd be put in place, so I'll check on the status.
And how many bikes will be at each spot? That'd be nice.
That I don't know.
Right, but I mean, you can ask.
Sure, yep.
Next to the last is, where are we with the ambulance?
So the ambulance, obviously, we've been discussing this since the beginning of the year. Had a conversation, one of the issues I think I shared with council that there was an insurance issue, whether our city employees were driving emergency care's ambulance. There was a concern if, God forbid, there was an accident, who was covered, who was paying for somebody who was injured from the city. Since that time, we've talked to our insurance company, also with our solicitor, made those revisions. Those revisions were sent to Emergent Care. I had a conversation actually with Emergent Care Friday. They're sharing with their folks. Our plan is to, the week of July 10th, start training with our guys to move forward with the ambulance being brought up and an agreement being signed.
And my final one is paving. What has been done and what's left to do?
So paving completed, and Tim may be able to help me out with this as well. Paving Murdoch Street has been done, and Petroleum Brown Street's been done. That's with CDBG funds that were used. That's been completed. I don't know, as far as next step.
The parking lot, we're just waiting for ProTech, for lack of better words, to put us in their cycle of when paving will start. Our street supervisor, Norm Thomas, has not heard from them yet. His thought is probably first week of July, maybe after the 4th.
Okay.
His opinion is probably running out of oil. But according to Norm, they probably will call 1 week saying they're coming the following week.
And there's the same company that does the striping too?
Striping will come out.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would like to say, it's safe to say it'll be done way before Oil Fest.
good.
Okay.
I don't think it would be too much of an issue.
No.
Striping.
I'd like to thank Public Works also, Tim and all the guys around down there for the work they've done for the city. And especially Norm Thomas. Norm's been down there for years, and he's a fixture down there, let me put it that way. He's well knowledgeable, and I'd like to say thanks to them.
Okay?
No, I have a couple things I was gonna say, was a couple things that Bill said, so I think I'm pretty good right now.
Deputy?
I think I said everything I needed to say at the beginning.
Okay.
Everything that was on my list, I already mentioned. Oh, I do have one thing, actually.
Okay.
It's just a general question in terms of, so I know the paving's being done on some streets. And I saw that in the Public Works report, they talked about cold patching. So there are some streets that have some serious potholes. Superior would be one of them.
Okay.
And I did report it to Public Works. I just don't know what their cycle is. I know that we've had some cold mornings. But as summer goes on and there's more traffic and we do have rain, those potholes get bigger if they don't get fixed. So I don't know really where they are kind of in doing that, but.
So I would say, whether it's a council person or somebody from the public, if they have a pothole, just, call us, let us know.
Right.
We'll work on getting the status of that first.
I think there's a place on the website too that you can
I think
report those,
that's-
are there not?
that is-
I thought there was.
yeah. I'll check the status on Superior Street.
Okay, thanks.
And on that note, before I do my closing remarks, I think I asked you about, or talked to you about this. So once National Fuel is done with this whole thing, where they're ripping up the streets on Perry and Oak, and now they're on Union Street there by 89, by Church Run Road, they got that all shut down today. Then are they or a company that they're choosing paving that, or they're just gonna leave the cold patch there?
Tim, I don't know if you know status of,
I know.
Okay. Yeah.
definitely follow up and see.
All right. Well, so let's see, our next meeting will be July 3rd, which even though July 4th is one that's on the day itself, so that's on Tuesday, so it'll be July 3rd, our meeting.
Okay.
Can I just interject one more thing?
Yeah,
So the e-waste,
Yes.
what seemed to go really, really well this week.
Yes.
Is there another one scheduled do we have two
I believe
scheduled
it's just
during
one
the year?
for this year.
Just one this year,
I believe
okay.
it should
Somebody
be.
asked me that, and I wasn't sure if we had one or two, but they very much appreciated
Yeah.
being able to go without having to pay an extra fee.
Yes.
And they were just wondering if there was gonna be another one.
I know they had a ton of stuff, and I believe they extended it an extra hour.
Okay.
Again, it fills up quickly, and they need something to look at, potentially having 2 a year.
Okay.
Again, it comes with a cost, but that's something might not be a bad idea
Right.
to explore.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
okay, so no, as I start my remarks, one of the things just came to me. You're gonna be talking to the company about the tables, cafe tables. So if you don't mind, when you talk to them, when you find out that lead time, since we're not gonna have a meeting for 2 more weeks,
Yep.
find out what kind of lead time they need for the benches. You know what I mean? In other words, if they say you really need to order them both at once, feel free to email all of us.
Oh, okay.
Even if you're waiting for other people that want to contribute to them. If it's not that much money, because it would be nice if there's going to be, 6 weeks delay, it would really be superb to have those in by Oil Festival just to complete the project. Because we have the lights on down there yet?
Lights are not on. I sent an email to TierWorks asking what the status of the electric. I think I shared with council, they were running into some issues with Penelac as far as how the box was supposed to operate, emergency shutoffs. Have not heard back. I'll follow up, send an email on Friday to the manager to find out what's going on.
And
Same
water?
with the water's not on. We actually tried it today, it's not working, so I'll check the status.
Okay.
as well.
I will say that somebody sent me a picture over the weekend that people are actually using the bicycle workstation, so
Nice.
it's kind of nice. But I would like to say definitely, when we can make that announcement, that a big thank you to the local businesses contributing to the cafe tables, because they're going to be a real asset to our outdoor dining and outdoor eating in Titusville. I again, like Bill and other people said tonight, would like to thank our Public Works for what they do for our fire and police. We had an opportunity to work with, Tim and Dustin both today on this dog, and they're very dedicated to listening to people's concerns. And so we don't have any major holidays coming before our next meeting. It'll be the day after. So I hope everybody had a good Father's Day this last weekend. And thank you to my fellow council members for their dedication, and that we, even though we don't always have the same thoughts, we have the same vision to see Titusville really do well. So with that, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make
Go ahead.
a motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
When you'd like, you can call the roll.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mr. Crouch.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.
When's the next meeting?
July 3rd.
Third?
I think, I keep saying that, hopefully I'm right.
Yes, it is.